Hello everybody and welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about my July wrap-up. This time I'm going to include something just a little bit different from watching Bookish Chaz's channel all the time, because he's like my favorite. I love how he tells you guys like the things that he is doing, as well as like the shows he's watching, aside from just giving you guys the update about what he did reading wise. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to do it as well, because it kind of allows us to, I guess, get to know each other more. I don't know. And I just like when Chaz shares about all the other things that he's done. So I was like, I did some things. Not a lot, but some. So, and then I'll tell you guys about the books that I read. So we'll go ahead and start with, I actually spent most of the month by myself. My daughter had some family from her father's side in. They were visiting from Sweden. They're Filipino, but they live in Sweden, so they were visiting from there. But so she spent pretty much the entire month with her dad's side of the family, so I had a lot of free time, a lot of downtime, and my house was very quiet. And normally most people would be like, oh, that's a great time to do a ton of reading, which I did. I did do a ton of reading, but I also ended up watching some shows, which I don't tend to watch a lot of TV, honestly. I can go months not turning my TVs on and just not touching anything. And there are other times when I do tend to watch something, I tend to just binge Bob's Burgers because it's my comfort show. But I actually watched something different. I watched something different this time. And that would be, I re-binged Futurama because Hulu has a new season coming out for it, and I loved it when it was initially playing on, cable TV and whatnot. So I decided to just rewatch the entire thing before the new season started. I finished the day that the new season started because it just rolled right into the new episode. New episodes on Mondays. So I enjoyed all of that. It was interesting too, because like sometimes some of the episodes I was like, I don't remember this. But definitely enjoyed having that big massive rewatch. It took pretty much the whole month because I didn't just binge it in like a day. I just every day just watched a couple episodes and whatnot. So enjoyed that. I also rewatched The Misadventures of Flapjack. It's a cartoon that used to be on Cartoon Network. Little pirate boy. He wants to be a pirate, and he lives in like a whale. Her name's Bubby, and he works with Captain Knuckles, who is just he's a slum bag. he's terrible, teaching this poor boy all kinds of horrible things. It's got a not so pretty art style to it, and it's one of the reasons why I like it. I will let you guys know I love cartoons. I love animation. It is my favorite medium when it comes to television, whether it's movies, TV shows. I love animation. So most of what I watch tends to be in that realm. I do come out of it every now and then, but my go-to is 100% animated features. Doesn't matter if it's meant for kids, adults, teenagers. I will watch it if it looks interesting enough. So outside of watching those two shows, I actually finally, for the first time, watched the horror movie The Babadook. My youngest sister is very into horror. It's her thing. Her house is, like Halloween 24/7. And last year she was like, oh, you gotta watch The Babadook. You gotta watch The Babadook. And I was like, is it on any streaming services? And it was not. But Hulu had it this year, and I was like, I'm gonna watch it before they take it down. So I watched The Babadook. I very much enjoyed it. It didn't scare me as much as I was just kind of like, what is happening here? What is it? What is this creature? What are you gonna show me? The creepy creature, which they did. I was very grateful for that, because I think that's part of the reason why I don't tend to watch a lot of horror movies, is I want to see the thing that everyone is supposed to be scared of, and they do not always show you, and that to me is a very big disappointment. But I very much enjoyed it. I definitely feel it was a very big giant like allegory to like dealing with depression and having a child who I feel like he might have autism, or it might be in that realm for this child, because he was just very different from the other kids, and you know, needed way more attention than other kids, and just would hone in on, like, he loved scary things and scary monsters. But the woman was she was very depressed because she had lost her husband. It's the first thing you learn. It's not a spoiler. And I feel like the creature was kind of like, it's an allegory for dealing with your depression and your isolation, your loneliness, and the anger and the fear that you have dealing with everything on your own when everyone around you is judging you instead of helping you. So overall, it was really good. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it didn't scare me so much as just kind of like, maybe just like, this is frightening in a different way, if that makes sense. Like, it's not like jump scare you. It was just more like, this is what life is like for people who don't have a support system, and that's scary in itself. So those are the things that I watched. It's not a lot. Like I said, I can go months not watching TV. I really can. So yeah. So after that, I did a bunch of reading. So now we'll get into what all I read. So if you had watched my TBR MBR video, I had 23 books on that list to potentially read. Out of those 23, I read 16 of them. Now, if you did not watch that video, I'm going to let you guys know right now that most of those were manga and 2 graphic novels. That's why it was kind of big. But also, I like to give myself a lot of options because I am a big mood reader. So with that said, let's go ahead and let's dive into what I read. So the first thing was, I finished Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. I started this one in like the end of June. So I went into July reading this one. I finished it. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I do have a review video strictly for it down below, but it has these like gothic X-Men vibes. I love the little boy Marlowe and Charlie, like, protect them at all costs. There is this awesome fight scene involving a train. Like, it is fantastic. The villain work, amazing, because it's one of those situations where you're like, are they a villain? Are they not a villain? Are they a hero? Or are they not a hero? What's going on? Alice was a wonderful, wonderful, strong female character, because she felt so realistic being thrown into a world where she really had no idea what was going on. But she was like, I gotta protect them kids. So it does have a little bit of that found family thing going on as well. Overall, though, very much loved it, enjoyed it. I am looking forward to the next book. It comes out next year, which I'm kind of glad I waited, because I got this last year. So I guess, like, at first I was like, oh my god, next year I have to wait a whole year, but at least I'm not waiting 2 years. So definitely check this one out. It is slower, though, I will tell you that. Keep in mind, it is a much slower paced book, but I think it worked wonderfully for it. So then after I finished that one, that was when I jumped into reading all of the manga and such. So first up was Didark Volume 5. We didn't really learn too much new about Sanko and... yeah, Sanko. that's the main character. We didn't really learn too much more about Sanko in this one, aside from the fact that I do believe he is involved in something that happens to a character named Bago when they were younger, and it alludes to it like towards the end of it and whatnot. We didn't really learn anything more about Damimaru, except for some information about his Paggy. If you read the series, it's a backpack. It's an organic life form backpack, basically. Like, you know, Raido's back. The Lightheads are up to, they're up to something. Like, they've got their plans going. It's in motion. Overall, it was a good volume. Nothing super big and fantastic. I am interested to know what happened with Bago, though, because like I said, I think it's related to something Sanko possibly did. And after that, I read A Man and His Cat Volume 7. I love this series, you guys. This series, every volume has managed to tear my heart into pieces and make me cry. I'm a very sensitive person, okay? And this one did not disappoint. This time around, you learn more about Joffrey, this man right here, and his relationship with Mr. Konda in terms of the world of being a world famous pianist, and how Joffrey like looks up to him but at the same time resents him. You get to see these two men heal through cats, and that's one of my favorite aspects with this manga, is that there is a lot of anger, resentment, fear, and sadness that slowly gets to be talked about and healed because cats bring these characters together. And that's what happens with Konda and Joffrey. They end up being brought together because Joffrey finds a litter of kittens while in Japan, and he's like, you're the only person I know and you have a cat, like what am I supposed to do? And Konda's like, oh my god, kittens. Like, this man loves cats. It's so funny. But you get to see them heal and stuff, and then you also get to see Joffrey start to heal his relationship with his own father, which I think was really greatly done as well. And we also got to learn just a little bit more about Konda's wife, and I appreciated that too. And then the end threw this big old curveball at us and was like, look who this character is and look at how they're related to Konda. And I'm like, what? So definitely looking forward to volume 8, and I know it's gonna get me too. I just, at this point I look forward to these mangas because I know they're just gonna break my heart. And then in between like all the crying, the mangaka does these point of views from Fukumaru, the cat, from his point of view, and they're always hilarious. And I'm like, one minute I'm crying, the next I'm laughing, and I appreciate that. And the point of views from Fukumaru, they feel so realistic. It just feels like, yeah, that's exactly what that cat is probably thinking. And I like that. So definitely worth checking out. I love this manga so much. And after that, I read volumes 1 and 2 of Night of the Living Cat. This manga is hilarious, you guys. It is stinking hilarious. So basically, one day, a cat food factory explodes, and next thing you know, if you come into contact with a cat, like you physically touch a cat, you will turn into a cat. And it is called the what do they call it? What, I want to say it right. They call it the, where is it? The Catlamity. It is the Catlamity. There's a lot of cat puns in here, just so you guys know, a ton of them. So if you're not a pun person, I am. Like, my humor is dad jokes and puns, okay? But at the same time, it feels like these mangas slowly kind of poke fun at other mangas, but in a not in a rude way. Like, there's this whole scene with this girl who's saving everybody because she's allergic to cats, so they use her as like a beacon to see if there's any cats in the general area, because she gets all like snuffly and sneezy and whatnot, and it gets to the point where she gets like so blocked up from having been around so many cats that like she can't breathe, and like her friend is being so dramatic outside of a helicopter that's saving everybody, and I'm just like, this feels like those mangas where the character is like dying and everyone around them is just so overly the top dramatic. But it's hilarious in this one because you're like, she's just having an allergic reaction, guys. Like, but it's great. It's fun. Kunagi, the main character, there is something very suspicious about him. I have my own little theories about who he possibly could be and why he acts the way he acts, because he is a homeboy. He's got skills like he is a cat, but he's not. And I'm like, I got my suspicions about you, bro. So definitely fun, lots of fun, wild and weird, crazy little things, and just the premise of the story is just so funny. Like, you touch a cat, you turn into a cat. Like, that's just fun. I'm definitely looking forward to the next volume because these are a wild ride. And after that, I read volumes 6, 7, and 8 of Fist of the North Star. I'll show you guys each of these covers because this art is so great. These, so much happened in all three of these. So much, but from Toki and Roa having their big old fight, to Ray confessing his love, us losing a man, he went out like a hero. That one was actually pretty devastating. Like I was in tears over that particular death of that character. We got to learn more about Toki and Roa's past. We got to learn more about Ken's past, and then we got to meet Souther. There was a big old storyline around Souther and having to know the correct way to beating him and destroying him, and so we obviously got to watch, Ken overcome that. And then volume 8 ends with meeting Ryuga, the lone wolf. So looking forward to learning more about that one, but again, action-packed, lots of crazy fight scenes that are really good, drama, they're great fun if you like a good action-packed manga. So then after that, I read volumes 1 and 2 of Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibi. These are by Hirohiko Araki. So Rohan is he's a side character in season 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Diamond is Unbreakable. And this is a little spin-off series. So Rohan is a mangaka artist, and both of these are just full of short stories that Rohan is telling the audience, like he's literally speaking to us, and he's like, I was researching for this project and I went and did this, and crazy, weird, bizarre things happened to me, because it wouldn't be JoJo's Bizarre Adventures if bizarre things were not happening to the characters. So like I said, they're both full of just short stories of that Rohan is telling you that he was hoping to create stories out of for his next mangaka story within the world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So I love these. Rohan is one of my favorite side characters. I love his stand, Heaven's Door. So adorable. But definitely, these are just really, like, if you're a big JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan, these are great to read for just like that weird, bizarre vibe that Araki is like so known for. And they're just a fun little wild ride, and it just gives you like a little glimpse into like more of who Rohan is as a character. So definitely fun. Love them. I'm so glad that they are finally in official US English print, because your girl read them a long time ago before then. And after that, I read The Girl from the Other Side, Shularun, Deluxe Volume 2. This is by Naga Bay. So this was there was like a little bit of laughters, there was a little bit of crying, but overall we got to learn a little bit more about Auntie. We got to learn a little bit more about these creatures that live on the outside, and we learned more about Teacher, because that's the relationship between, so there's a little girl there, and then he's an outsider because of the way he looks, and she calls him Teacher because he found her in the forest outside of the wall. So you find out more about Teacher, you get to find out more about the outsiders, you found out more about Auntie, and then you find out what happened to a couple of the knights from the first couple of volumes. They come back into play, and you find out what happened to them and where they went, and you're kind of like, oh, that's sad. But there's still a lot of mystery going on. There's still a lot of things that haven't been answered yet. Shiva herself, the little girl, she is starting to ask more questions. She is starting to want to understand things more, especially her place and everything. And within this world, when you get touched by someone from the outside, you become an outsider and you turn into these creatures. And she's trying to understand and learn more about that, and learn about herself involved in it all. So there's more questions in this, and you do start to get more answers to everything. But it is still just, it has these moments where you remember she is a child. And this is a lot for her to deal with. So it does pull, on the heart a little bit, at least for me it does. Learning about Teacher's past was also like, there's pieces that are popping up where you're like, that's the Teacher. I'm very sure that's the Teacher. That's who the Teacher was. So that's very interesting as well. And then we're also getting to see more of the outsiders and where they come from, and being able to listen to them. So looking forward to the third volume. I believe it's already out. I just have to get a hold of it. But this is just, it's a beautiful manga, and it's just, the imagery as well is just gorgeous. And the story is very captivating. So I definitely recommend checking this one out. And then after that, it was Lauravelor Olympus, volumes 3 and 4. These are by Rachel Smith. I'm actually not like 100% in love with this series, to be 100% honest with you guys. A lot of that I think deals with the fact that I'm just not like gung-ho for Hades and Persephone from mythology. My favorite Greek couple has always been Psyche and Eros, so I'm like, okay. And I think there's enough Hades and Persephone retellings, honestly. So overall, I enjoyed them. They're both like, I think like right now the entire series as a whole is like a 3-star for me. I don't like all of the changes that Rachel does to the actual myths and such, so that she changes a lot, so there's not a lot of like incest involved, which I mean, it's fine, but I don't know, sometimes there's just certain things that I just like, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that either. But overall, they're mediocre for me. I read them, they're all right. So yeah, nothing really too great. I'm also not really a fan of this particular cover, since like I don't know, I'm not a fan of this particular one, the character image used on it. I don't know, it was alright, it's okay. After that, I was done with all of the mangas and graphic novels, because the Lauravelor Olympus ones are more graphic novel-y than they are manga. So after I finished all that, I went back to reading regular books. 3 books that I read, I don't own them, so I will put little pictures up because I had them through the library. But it was Shady Hollow, Mirror Lake, and Cold Clay. Oh, that should actually go Shady Hollow, Cold Clay, Mirror Lake. It's a little trilogy. There's a 4th one coming out, but it's a series that follows. It's called the Shady Hollow. It was trilogy, but like I said, there's a 4th coming out. But it follows a detective solving murders in her town. The twist is, though, they're animals. So you follow a fox. She's a journalist, and she is trying to help the local PD, who are 2 bears. This town has a cop force of 2 bears. And I love that. But they are trying to solve the different murders that are popping up throughout the books. Each one focuses on a different murder, obviously. I have to say, Mirror Lake, the 3rd one, was honestly the best one, while Cold Clay was unfortunately the worst one out of them. I felt like Cold Clay spent too much time focusing on the relationship between the journalist and her boyfriend, and I didn't care about that. I wanted to know where the dead bones came from. I don't care about your relationship problems, okay? I didn't care about that. It ended up outshining the murder mystery that was going on. The first book had a good solid murder mystery. It was a good solid opening for it, but I think entertainment wise, the 3rd one had the best murder mystery, and we got to see another town as well, because we got to see the journalist travel to another little town, and their cop force was mountain lion. I think she was a mountain lion. Like very, very predator type PD officers in these little towns. But it has a very cozy feeling to it. I do not always mesh with cozy. For the most part, I don't at all. And I will say the first 2 books, I did have some initial trouble getting into them, because I kept like getting sleepy, kept trying to fall asleep. And it's just because the stakes were just too low and too cozy for me, that they were putting me to sleep. And I don't want to fall asleep when I'm reading a book. Like the only other times I've ever fallen asleep while reading a book is when it was like boring. This was just, it was so low, and so like this is why I don't read cozy, because the stakes are just too low for me. But I pushed through them, and like I said, I ended up coming out of them thinking they were cute and adorable. I will say I'm glad I did not buy them, because I had initially seen them at Barnes & Noble, and that's what piqued my interest. and I prevented myself from buying them and I got them from the library instead, and I think that was the better choice for me, since overall I think for the 3 that I read, it's like a good 3.5 star rating, probably more like a solid 3. But yeah, they're fun, they're cute. If you're into the whole cozy thing right now, I think these ones are a good one to pick up. And then they're just kind of cute because they follow animals, and I think that's fun. And I picked up Down Below Beyond by T.A. Bruno. This is officially out today as I'm filming this on the 31st of July. So do go get your hands on it because it is fun. It is I'm like, it's so much more than fun. It is fun, it is heartbreaking, it is action packed, it keeps you entertained from start to finish. And the topics that come up in it, one of the biggest topics that does appear in this is friendship, whether it is positive or toxic. And I love the fact that like Bruno went in and explored those things, and it's one of those things where he handled it so well that I can tell he's dealt with these situations before. The characters are all great. So many aliens, I want a Russ Looney story. They're a type of alien, they're a big lizard dude, they're like strong and just, they're a walking tank, and I love them. So he has now created like 2 alien races where I'm like, I want stories that follow them, not humans. But it's great fun. There's they portal hop from planet to planet. There's action. It's all around amazing fun. It's a standalone. You do not have to read the Song of Kamaria to know about this, but there are 2 small Easter eggs, which I caught them. One of them is a very big obvious Easter egg, but I don't know if everyone else caught the second one, but I caught the second one. So definitely worth checking out. Please go read anything by T.A. Bruno because he is fantastic. And yeah, loved this one. Then I finished the month out with reading The Second Sight of Zachary Cloudesley by Sean Lusk. I enjoyed this. It's a solid 3 star. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't amazing, but the synopsis leads you to believe that the story is going to be vastly different than what you get. And that was a little bit disappointing, and it made the story just a little bit harder to get through because I kept waiting for the moment the book would start to sound like the synopsis said it was going to sound like. So it's great, characters are great. It's a historical fantasy, like an alternate it's like an alternate historical place because it's got some magic involved, but there is a lot of like, they go to like real places like Constantinople, England, such like that, and it does take place in the 1700s. I don't know, something like that. I think I said that right. But like I said, it's good, it's great. It's a debut novel, so I think for what it is, it's a good debut novel. I will look forward to picking up something else from Lusk. I do plan on doing a much more deeper review for this one because I do have a couple more thoughts, so I will be doing that. But yeah, it was good. It's a pretty one. It's been bugging me ever since I got it in to read it, so it's done. I read it. Yay! So that is everything that I did in the month of July. I almost said May. The month of July. That is everything that I did in the month of July. So if you guys read any of those books, if any of them sound interesting, go ahead, drop a comment below, like, subscribe, do all of those fun things, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!